Hi, I'm Allie.
And I'm Becky.
We are registered dietitians that are passionate about food as medicine.
In this video, we are going to be covering 5 reasons to gargle salt water and how to do it.
This household remedy, which yes, you've probably heard of gargling salt water, actually has a lot of solid science behind it. Gargling salt water can support in prevention and treatment of cold and flu, sore throat. It can actually offset respiratory infection risk, and it can reduce oral sores and infections. What's more, and maybe a little bit outside the box, is that gargling salt water can be a way to ground your nervous system, getting it back into the parasympathetic regulatory mode by stimulating your vagus nerve and providing you a chemical charge to reset your system.
Yes, I've always turned to this at the first sign of sore throat, but it sounds like there are so many other applications that I might want to be incorporating this daily. So we're looking at just 2 minutes a day with literally 2 ingredients that everyone has in their house: salt and water. And really this can be done with children as soon as you're able to kind of teach them to gargle versus just swallow, although swallowing these ingredients would not be harmful in any sense. So age 3, 4, and beyond.
Yes. And just clearing mucus and phlegm is a practice for all children. We've talked about in past videos for immune health of teaching them in the bathtub to blow bubbles and how that can clear in their nasal passage mucus and phlegm, because really a concern is when that drainage gets trapped in the respiratory tract, that sets up risk for pneumonia and bacterial infection in the lungs. And actually, we've seen in studies that just gargling alone can reduce the incidence of upper respiratory infection, and with active infection can reduce the severity and length of respiratory infection. Then when you add salt beyond just that gargling process of working as an expectorant to break up the phlegm, the salt having microbial regulation can actually combat bacterial and viral infection. Salt draws fluid out of the tissue and works as a protective membrane to prevent pathogen or bacterial or viral infection from entering your body in the first place.
Yes, in fact, this 2013 study actually showed that gargling with salt water was more effective at preventing reinfection of the flu virus than the flu vaccination or masking.
This study from 2010 looked at prevention of gingivitis and actually saw a salivary bacterial shift with the use of gargling with salt water, less harmful bacteria in that oral cavity. We know that gargling salt water can be a great tool for canker sores and any form of oral ulcerations. So especially if you have a family member dealing with chemotherapy or cancer treatment, this population is high risk to oral sores, and gargling salt water can be soothing and prevent infection for those that are immune compromised.
Yes, and going back to the children, we actually can use this as kind of an adjunct if we're dealing with a sore throat or especially strep throat. And maybe we've been through a few rounds of antibiotic therapy. It's not shaking the infection, or they've still got that kind of raspy scratchiness. This can be a great way to soothe that pain and inflammation, especially before bedtime.
Now, outside of immune support and that soothing influence of gargling salt water, moving into maybe more of the heady content of parasympathetic regulation. So we've seen in research study that humming and making sounds can actually stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from our brainstem all the way down to our colon, and it's like the tuning fork, if you will, for our autonomic nervous system. What determines if we're in survival, fight, or flight mode, or that regulatory rest and digest mode. When we create that gargling noise, that actually stimulates the vagus nerve to activate and can transition us from survival into safety mode.
And what's more is that when we combine that salt with water, we actually see that that salt water has an electrical charge. So if you've heard of grounding, maybe getting out and putting your feet in the grass, which still would be a great option, or using something like a grounding mat, this is a way to actually ground your body kind of from the inside out with something you can do very cheaply and easily at home.
All right, let's show everyone how it's done.
All right, so we are using our favorite salt here, which is Redmond real salt. This is going to be mined from some salt caves that are ancient in Utah. And we see that this salt is actually free of all those microplastics that we worry about with certain sea salts from certain regions. And it's going to be very mineral rich. So you're not just getting sodium and chloride in your salt. So I'm using about a half teaspoon per 8 ounces of water here.
So our water is just slightly warm. You want to be at room temp or a little bit warmer so that that salt disperses nicely as you stir it in.
I'm gonna give it a stir until it kind of dissolves pretty well in there.
All right. And then, as we won't be talking once we start gargling, we're going to put as much water as we can comfortably fit in our mouths and start gargling from our throat. And do that for about a minute's time and then spit it out in the sink, and we'll see you in a moment.
I've never gargled on camera before.
Here we go. First time for everything. So it really is wild to think that something as simple as gargling salt water can have such a powerful role on your health. But we would highly encourage that y'all try it in your household as something that is safe, almost free, and very effective in a multitude of benefits.
Go ahead and drop us a comment below on if you tried this and any shifts or changes you've seen in your own body. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Naturally Nourished YouTube channel.
Doing great.
No, Jess. Due to technical difficulties, this video has been edited. No.
Oh my gosh, it's melting.
I think it's alright. Like a geyser. It's the best outtakes I've ever seen, not on purpose.